Did they get it wrong, selection-wise?
Selection-wise, it's always going to be questioned, isn't it? Rico Lewis going to left back. That was a big point in the game.
He didn't play left back. He played midfield.
But he does play midfield. That's what I'm saying. He goes into left back when they're out of possession. In possession, he goes and makes the two. They've been doing that for ages. Cancelo's done that. There's no different what we haven't seen before. Maybe that back three spreads a little bit more from the defensive unit when they do that. But again, no Kevin De Bruyne. That's going to be the biggest question marks asked around substitutions. Could he have done something different? Bernardo Silva didn't really get into those areas. You could have put him into the wider positions.
Do you think Phil Foden could have been more involved?
But Phil Foden, the problem with Phil, he was ill, wasn't he? He's not been involved for a few weeks now. He had an injury. He's come back training, and then last night I believe he was sick, so had to go home. So that was the difference for Phil Foden.
Look, I have to talk about the Rico Lewis one. Me and Brownie, we played midfield, and I'm watching the game, and I'm amazed that a left back is just standing in midfield. And if I was, look, I know Pep wants his players to come inside and tuck in, but there was too many times where there was just no width from Manchester City when the outball was to get it out to the fullback, give it to Grealish, and then get the overlaps. And the same the other side. Rico Lewis was just playing centre midfield, and I just felt like he was in the way.
There's not really an overlap system that Pep Guardiola plays anymore, Jamie. It's literally, it can either the 1v1 or they come inside, and generally the one like.
But you can't tell me as a midfielder, Brownie, if Rico Lewis is standing in your space 24/7, you're going to turn around to him in the end and say, "Can you get out of my space? I'm trying to receive the ball," and he's standing next to you all the time.
If he's next to you, 100% that's the case. But what they want to do is they want to try and have that midfield run, that slide pass, whether it be Bernardo Silva, Ilkay Gundogan, in behind that sort of full-back stroke centre-back area, but the space wasn't there for them because they delayed it. They didn't do it quick enough today, and that was the difference. Spurs got the lead, they got the confidence, and they said, right, we'll go and sit back in, you take your time all you like, and then just invited the press, and they were good with the pressing in the middle of the park. Spurs.
I mean, what's got to change for City then, you think, Jamie? Because it's going to be a bit of a race here this season. It's going to be a tight one for them in the Champions League as well, still in the FA Cup, yet they look like they're just not the same. They're not fluid anymore. Yeah. They're not aggressive enough. They're not pressing as much.
I think for me, as Brownie was saying, moving the ball a bit quicker. You know, I think today was a little bit laboured. They felt like it was maybe a little bit easy, and I think when they got to understand
in the final third as well, they looked a bit panicky.
Yeah, and they'll always create chances. I think maybe they're a little bit reliant on Haaland to step up and score them goals. Other players need to, come out and start scoring goals for them. We saw last season midfielders getting on the score sheets a lot, and it hasn't really happened this season. But I think for me, just moving the ball a little bit sharper. I think they're used to teams now just sitting off, letting them have possession, and they end up moving it a little bit laboured, side to side, side to side. Need that killer pass, that one that takes 4 or 5 players out of the game, and then move it again and get it into Haaland and create space. But it's difficult. Teams sit in.
How can they bring the best out of Haaland, by the way? If you compare how he was in Dortmund, again, it's 0 shots for the first time since he was in Dortmund.
It's unbelievable amount of goals. It's incredible. The return of goals is like we've never seen before, ever in the Premier League, and it's there for all to see. But to function
like a team with Haaland,
I understand that point of view because the team have also been a little bit disjointed. The World Cup certainly didn't help City. I know it hasn't been so bad at other teams. I feel like the City's better players, the mainstays, need to get a little bit of a run, and they haven't got that. They're playing one game here, then another game, and they don't seem to be at the best. And then there's that uncertainty of other players playing. I think he needs to find his formula, which he isn't doing, and then you go and change it again. Then you look next week, then you've got Arsenal, and you've got something totally to think about. They went man for man in the cup game with 6 changes. Incredible from Arteta.
I mean, changes and rotations isn't something new to Pep Guardiola. He does it all the time. But this time round, but back then, you think about maybe the Centurion sort of era, the 2017, 2018, 2019, changes, but yet it still looked like he knew his best 11. He knew his strongest 11, but this time around the changes seem more like he's trying something different and he can't figure it out.
Well, I think he's also making changes to the way he's playing. Normally, when you talk about the teams that have played in the past where they've dominated whoever come in, they'd still play the same way. There'd be the same sort of play. They'd move the ball in the same areas. But now I'm seeing, 1 minute it's a 3-5-2, then it's a 3-4-3, then it's a 4-4-2 or 4-2-3-1. There's a lot of changes that he's making. He's rotating aside, but he's also changing the tactical side of it as well, which I'm surprised at.
possibly overthinking it a little bit. I think that's your point of what
Pep,
we're saying. It is Pep. And we always, he's obviously... He's way ahead of anybody else with the next system, the next setup, what he understands. And it's just obviously a bit of a transition at this moment in time with these players. I think he's come out and said, how desperate are you to go all this side to go and win another title? I think the players' point of view, they desperately want to do things. They're serial winners, that's for sure. I just feel I'm unsure, as you've just said, about the team selection. What's next? Who's going to play? And there's such a bit of a guessing game.
Can you actually pick out the strongest 11 for City, if you were to name one?
Well, I think you wouldn't be far away, would you? Because you want a little bit more pace, you want a little bit more power in certain areas. A Kevin De Bruyne in any 11, firing fit, firing in the right combination, the right setup is also key.
It's in a 4-3-3 for Manchester City. That was what Liverpool and Man City, when they were dominating, you turn up and you're thinking, can't beat this team. It was a 4-3-3. Rodri sitting, or Fernandinho was sitting, and you had Gundogan, De Bruyne, you had Bernardo Silva or Mahrez, then you had Foden or Grealish, and you had your centrepiece, and you've got Haaland. I feel like they're trying to fit, Haaland in. They're trying to get Alvarez in. They're trying to fit players, round. You'd say the
Alvarez
round pegs and square holes.
Alvarez is the difficult situation of how you get him on the pitch when he's not playing in the wider one, to be more central. I think that's something different. And what he's trying to overcreate is the extra one in the middle. At times, doesn't always work.